Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star 2 episode number 8 based on novel. So let's start. As soon as night fell, Luo Feng and Morosa had already arrived at Menghua Tower. It seems that we are the first ones to arrive. Luo Feng sat down leisurely, and Morosa sat on one side. There were flower-shaped buildings around them, and many waiters were serving outside the buildings. The green-clad waiter smiled and said, "Your Excellency, the other guests will be here soon." "Ha ha. I'm the first one here again." Along with loud laughter, a burly figure as tall as a mountain flew into the area, and the waiter who was responsible for receiving him was left behind. "Oh." The burly figure looked towards Luo Feng in surprise. "Is there an earlier one?" Luo Feng observed the towering figure, and the green-clad waiter beside him introduced him. "Your Excellency, this is one of the best weapon refining masters in Huyang City, the master of Qianyang sect, Yen Qianyang." "Ha ha, who is this god?" Yen Qianyang walked over with a smile and was quite enthusiastic. "Luo He." Luo Feng also stood up. "Brother Luo He should have just arrived in Huyang City recently." Yen Qianyang said with a smile, "If you don't mind, how about Brother Luo He and I sit together?" "Please." Luo Feng also likes making friends. He came to the origin continent to see more scenery. Luo Feng glanced at Morosa beside him, and Morosa could only sit obediently in the corner. After all, he is a void true god on the surface, and it is not appropriate for him to sit too close to the two eternal true gods. I, Yen Qianyang, love making friends the most in Huyang City. As long as there are new eternal true gods, I am willing to make friends with one or two. Yen Qianyang sat down aside. "It's true that I just arrived in Huyang City, and I only have a handful of friends." Luo Feng said. "You have a new friend today." Yen Qianyang smiled. "Brother Luo He can come to me for help if he encounters any problems in Huyang City. After all, I am good at refining weapons and have made friends with various forces." Luo Feng nodded. "Brother Yen is truly amazing as he is one of the best in weapon refining in Huyang City. He himself practiced the chaos power diagram method, which is a secret method of body refining. Since the divine body can be restored even if damaged, the difficulty of body refining is lower than that of weapon refining. Even so, Luo Feng had spent a lot of effort to thoroughly study the first level of building the foundation of chaos power diagram, which made him admire these true weapon refining masters even more. Everyone has his own strengths. Yen Qianyang smiled humbly. During the conversation, a winged man flew in. He naturally had a decadent air. After coming in, he ignored everyone and went into a building by himself. He sat down and drank alone. "This eternal true god is called Sang Shuiyun." Yen Qianyang said, "The eternal true gods who always come to the 100 Flowers Banquet of Menghua Tower are me and Sang Shuiyun. We are rivals in love." "Love rival?" Luo Feng was surprised. Yen Qianyang shook his head and sighed. "It's a pity that I have feelings, but the owner of Menghua Tower is ruthless." Luo Feng found it interesting that these two eternal true gods were both pursuing the master of Menghua Tower. "You'll know the charm of Master Menghua Tower once you see him." Yen Qianyang suddenly caught a glimpse of another eternal true god who had arrived. The eternal true god had a blurry body condensed from mist, and his appearance was difficult to see clearly. Only one eye was calmly observing the surroundings. "Who is this?" Luo Feng asked curiously. Yen Qianyang whispered, "It's Lord Bai Wu from the Six Lords Alliance. Luo Feng was puzzled. The Six Lords Alliance is a hidden force in Huyang City. Rumor has it that the six eternal true gods often practiced and exchanged ideas together, and later formed the Six Lords Alliance. The Six Lords Alliance is one of the 19 dark forces in Huyang City." Yen Qianyang explained. 19 dark forces? Luo Feng nodded. "Didn't you buy some detailed information about Huyang City?" Yen Qianyang asked. "No." Luo Feng shook his head. "It's too boring to buy it. What you need on your spiritual journey is some surprises. The official power of Huyang City is the City Lord's Mansion, the Huyang Guards, and the 10 Huyang Legions. These official forces are mainly controlled by the 5 major families. Yan Chenyang said simply, the 5 major families all have extraordinary backgrounds, and some are even royal families. Luo Feng nodded, he also understood this. There are 5 god kings in the Yu Kingdom, and their family members have accumulated a large number over a long period of time. Naturally, they will be sent to each chaos state to occupy some high-level positions. The official power is led by the 5 major families. They have great strength and terrifying backgrounds. But in this world, strength is everything. No matter how powerful one's background is, it is not as good as real strength. Therefore, the forces formed by some eternal true gods will naturally affect the entire Huyang City. 19 dark forces have also infiltrated Huyang City, and the residents of Huyang City have to pay them residence fees. Yan Chenyang said. Besides these, there are many weaker families, most of which are just doing business, some refining medicine, some refining weapons, and some establishing sects. For idle eternal true gods like us, our influence is much weaker. Yan Chenyang said with a smile, we don't have the heart to fight for the control of the entire Huyang City. Luo Feng nodded. According to his understanding, in a large city, in addition to official forces and dark forces, the idle eternal true gods and the eternal true gods of ordinary families are the largest in number when accumulated. There are also some branches of major forces in the origin continent in Huyang City. The branches may be ordinary, but they can mobilize some terrifying strong men at any time. Yan Chenyang shook his head, the water here is too deep. If you get involved, you may lose your life at any time. Luo Feng felt that this new friend Enteros Chenyang was quite interesting. Brother Luo He, which force are you from? Yan Chenyang asked. Neither side. Luo Feng said, I came to Huyang City with only one servant. Yan Chenyang smiled and said, you have just arrived in Huyang City, and it is easy for you to be used by some forces. I will give you a piece of information, and you have to be careful and pay attention. As he spoke, he pointed his finger and a stream of light flew towards Luo Feng. Luo Feng took a look at this relatively detailed information. Such information would require at least 10 cosmic sands. Thank you, Brother Shong. Luo Feng said. It's a small matter. Yan Chenyang suddenly looked outside. There are quite a few eternal true gods coming this time. 2 of the 5 major families are also here. Luo Feng looked over. 2 purple gold figures flew in. Both of them had 3 eyes and a tail covered with purple gold scales that was extremely sharp. They glanced around and flew to one place without dealing with any eternal true god. 2 eternal true gods from the Chu Meng clan, one of the 5 major families. Yan Chenyang asked in surprise, it's rare for a royal family to come to Menghua Tower. Luo Feng has obtained detailed intelligence and knows that among the 5 major families, 2 of them are royal families. The Chu Meng family is the family of Chu Meng God King, one of the 5 great god kings of Yu State. With the God King guarding the clan, countless descendants born over endless years, and massive resources for training, the Chu Meng clan naturally has a large number of elites. The 5 major families also have eternal true gods coming? That's rare. The charm of the owner of Menghua Tower is indeed extraordinary. The other eternal true gods who arrived were also chatting, and they couldn't help but pay attention to the 2 eternal true gods of the Chu Meng clan. After all, the Chu Meng clan has the God King behind them. Who wouldn't envy them? As the music sounded, the eternal true gods present also quieted down and looked at the figure that walked out of nothingness. Master of Menghua Tower? Luo Feng looked at him from afar. The divine body of the owner of Menghua Tower seemed to be the manifestation of the law of charm, and naturally attracted every eternal true god present. Even Luo Feng saw the shadow of his wife Shushin in her. What a powerful divine body! Every eternal true god can see his or her favorite qualities when seeing her. Luo Feng already knew something from the information given by Yan Chenyang, but he was still a little amazed. Tonight, 15 eternal true gods are coming to attend the 100 Flowers banquet. It is also an honor for Menghua. The voice of the owner of Menghua Tower resounded everywhere and in the hearts of every eternal true god. I have come up with a new song. I hope all the eternal true gods will appreciate it. Present at the event were 2 eternal true gods from the Chu Meng clan among the 5 major families, 5 true gods from the 19 major dark forces, and 8 eternal true gods including Luo Feng and Yan Qianyang. A total of 15 eternal true gods attended the 100 Flowers banquet. The music sounded between heaven and earth, snowflakes naturally floated in the dark night, and the world in Luo Feng and the others' vision was changing. What an amazing music illusion! Luo Feng could feel the power of the illusion of Master Menghua. Even his most satisfied, Luoya, was far inferior to Master Menghua. But such music illusion still has limited impact on Luo Feng, who has the will of the peak of chaos. Her music illusion is obviously much stronger. If I don't use the 7 emotions refining heart technique, this music will have no effect on me. But once I use the 7 emotions refining heart technique, I'm afraid I won't be able to bear it. Luo Feng was a little worried. Listening to the music of Arroyo and other musicians, and perceiving it through the 7 emotions mind refining method, I felt emotionally moved and shed tears. If I were to continue using the 7 emotions mind-refining technique under the music magic of Master Menghua Tower, I would definitely be even more deeply immersed in it and might even lose my composure. Morosa, help me protect the Dharma. Luo Feng sent a telepathic message. Morosa, who was eating and drinking alone in the corner, looked up and responded quickly in his mind, Master, rest assured, I will protect the Dharma with all my heart. The music magic of the Master of Menghua Tower only covers the 15 eternal true gods. Those servants and waiters are not qualified to be served wholeheartedly by the Master of Menghua Tower. Luo Feng made up his mind, and then he performed the 7 emotions mind refining method. Under the operation of the secret method, the power of the music he was originally listening to suddenly increased by who knows how many times, making Luo Feng completely immersed in the world of the soul in an instant. The 2 eternal true gods of the Tsuman clan listened to the music. It's just SOSO, far inferior to some performances in the capital. It's worth listening to, but the impact on the soul is far less than the family's 100 Tribulations song. The 2 of them listened while drinking and chatting, and it was obvious that they were not affected much by the music. Most of the other eternal true gods present were enjoying themselves. The 2 eternal true gods, Entianian and Sang Shueyun, who were infatuated with the owner of Menghua Tower, were immersed in the story, with tears of joy or sorrow on their faces. Luo Feng was originally sitting cross-legged and listening, but at this moment he lost control. The invisible aura spread out, causing the table in front of him to shatter silently. The impact scared Morosa in the corner, and the green-clothed waiter was also startled, Lord Luo He. Fortunately, the building is covered by a formation and is still intact. Who is this strange eternal true god? He lost control even at 100 Flowers banquet? The other eternal true gods present were all surprised. Even Yan Qianyang, who was beside Luo Feng and immersed in it, opened his eyes and looked at Luo Feng. Although he was moved to tears, he still had a clear perception of the outside world and was not out of control. Is my brother Luo He so deeply immersed in this? Yan Qianyang couldn't believe it. The 2 eternal true gods of the Chu Meng clan who were drinking and chatting turned their heads and looked with interest at Luo Feng, who was already emitting aura in the distance. Is his mind so weak? He lost control after just a musical illusion performance. I guess he is an eternal true god who broke through by chance in the wild tribe. He doesn't have the secret method to cultivate his mind and will, so he is so weak. The mental defects are too serious, and it is easy to be targeted. The 2 of them were watching for fun. As members of the royal family, the Chu Meng clan, they had a sense of superiority over the eternal true gods outside. They thought their secret methods were too crude, and their secret treasures and weapons were too poor. In their opinion, Luo Feng was the lucky one who had not practiced his mind and will and became an eternal true god by chance. It was such a great banquet of flowers, but he ruined the mood. There was a tall figure with black hair all over his body, his bloodshot eyes were full of anger. He was listening with great concentration and felt that it was a first-class enjoyment, but his enjoyment was affected by Luo Feng. He is none other than Limo, the third leader of the Dark Force, Blood Python Society. Don't worry too much about a newly emerged eternal true god. A black-scaled figure drank wine. The owner of Menghua Tower will let him out soon, otherwise he will affect the entire 100 Flowers banquet. This black-scaled figure is the leader of the Blood Python Society. Interesting. Under by Wu Juan's misty body, and I was observing Luo Feng. At this moment, all the other eternal true gods in the audience were paying attention to Luo Feng. After all, the aura released by an eternal true god would naturally arouse the vigilance of other eternal true gods. This was also an instinct. Seeing this, the owner of Menghua Tower, who was performing music magic, had to stop temporarily. I knew he was easily affected by the magic of music, but I didn't expect he would lose control. The owner of Menghua Tower had no choice. She had to take the thoughts of other distinguished guests into consideration. The illusion stopped. Luo Feng came to himself and realized that the table, food, drinks, etc. in the room he was in were completely shattered. The eternal true gods in many surrounding buildings were looking here, seemingly discussing something. Out of control. Luo Feng thought to himself, it seems that when performing the 7 emotions refining heart technique, it is not suitable to listen to the music illusion of the owner of Menghua Tower. Brother En, I'm sorry. Luo Feng, who was sitting cross-legged, immediately stood up and said to En Qianyang, who was standing beside him. It's a small matter. En Qianyang laughed, I just didn't expect that you are more deeply immersed in it than me. The music you wrote is indeed extraordinary. Luo Feng said with a smile, it reminds me of many old memories. I'll go out for a walk first, Brother En, you guys continue. Luo Feng glanced at Morosa and walked out, and Morosa followed him immediately. When Luo Feng walked out of the building, he nodded slightly to the owner of Menghua Tower to express his apology, and then left with his servant Morosa. When he looked at me, he wasn't obsessed with me. Menghua Tower Master felt a little disappointed. Being immersed in illusions didn't mean he would be obsessed with her. But his ability to resist illusions is obviously very weak, so there is still a chance. Everyone, there were some minor setbacks just now. Please don't mind. The voice of the owner of Menghua Tower sounded, naturally soothing the soul. This strange eternal true god is probably of average strength. I don't know about other things, but my spiritual will is still relatively weak. This group of eternal true gods watched Luo Feng leave and had some ideas in mind. Master, are you not attending the 100 Flowers banquet? Morosa followed Luo Feng. There's nothing to participate in. Luo Feng shook his head. If he didn't use the 7 emotions refining heart technique, the illusion was not worth mentioning. But if he used it, he would temporarily exceed his limit and lose control. In comparison, those void true god-level musicians are more suitable for me. Your Majesty. The green-clad waiter Yu Luo also followed. Let's arrange another place. Luo Feng ordered, and ask a lawyer to come over. The green-clad waitress nodded and immediately began to make arrangements. Soon she whispered, Sir, today we are holding 100 Flowers banquet. There are many guests at Menghua Tower. A lawyer is performing somewhere else and it will probably take a while for her to come over. Oh. Luo Feng glanced around, and with the sensing ability of his perfect divine body, he instantly locked onto a hall where a lawyer was performing. In this hall, Aroya stood there with vines spreading out from her body and directly wrapping around the musical instruments. The many instruments sounded naturally under the stimulation of divine power, making the guests immersed in a fantasy world. When the performance ended, Aroya bowed and was about to leave. Wait a moment. One of the young men sitting in the main seat spoke. This young man had 4 purple horns on his head like a crown, and eyes burning with purple flames. Anyone with a little knowledge could recognize that this young man was a member of the Mo Li clan in Huyang City. Aroya had no choice but to stop. I have been to Menghua Tower many times and listened to music many times. You are the most talented musician. The young man of the Mo Li family said, I, Mo Li Lian, formally invite you to become a musician of my Mo Li clan. I wonder if you are willing? Aroya's heart trembled. An invitation from the Moli clan? She didn't want to go. If she entered such a top clan, she would become a plaything. There was a red-haired man sitting next to Mo Li Lian. The red-haired man smiled and said, Aroya, Mo Li Lian is a genius of the younger generation of the Mo Li family. He has also received personal guidance from the commander of the Huyang Corps, Mo Li Xiao. He has great hopes of becoming an eternal true god. He personally invited you, so it's your honor. Why are you hesitating? I am the musician of Menghualu and cannot leave without permission. Aluya said in a low voice. As long as you are willing, Master Menghua will still give face to my Moli clan. Mo Li Lian said with a smile. Master Mo Li Lian. I don't want to go. Aluya said with all her courage. If she really joined the Mo Li clan, she couldn't afford to offend any of the core members of the clan. She would just be a plaything that could be summoned and dismissed at will. Mo Lilian frowned slightly. Seeing this, the red-haired man immediately said, Aroya, you are from the Thousand-Leaf Fine Grass clan, right? If I remember correctly, the Thousand-Leaf Fine Grass clan is in the territory of our Blood Python Society. The Blood Python Society is one of the 19 dark forces in the entire Huyang city. They secretly control the entire Huyang city. Aroya's face changed when she heard this. The Qianya Tenkao clan has 9 void true gods and more than 10,000 true gods, living in the Snow Winter district of Huyang city. The red-haired man looked at her. I should remember correctly. He remembered clearly the backgrounds of all kinds of practitioners in the Blood Python Society. Because he needs to find the fat sheep, and when he finds a fat sheep, he has to slaughter it. Palace Master Duan. Aluoya hesitated. She was really unwilling. How could she be a plaything on the road of cultivation? But she was afraid that the Blood Python would. Duan Moyun, the strength of your Blood Python club is average. Mo Lilian chuckled, his eyes grew a little colder. The red-haired man also looked at Aroya angrily. Little musician, you are shameless, get out. Aluoya was on pins and needles and didn't dare to leave. She could see that the Palace Master Duan Moyun was very angry. If she really left like this, it would bring disaster to the entire Qianya Tenkao clan. Just when Aluya was in a dilemma, a purple-robed waiter hurried into the hall and apologized. Master Mo Lilian, Palace Master Duan Moyun, please don't be angry. Since Master Mo Lilian personally invited me, it is naturally a blessing for Aluya. I am here to persuade Aluya. Mo Li Lian nodded slightly. The red-haired man Duan Moyun sneered and said, this little musician is quite courageous. Yes, yes. The purple-robed waiter responded and was about to pull Aluya out first. Suddenly, the entire hall fell silent. Everyone present seemed to have become a painting, unable to move, and without any sound. At this time, a black-haired man walked into the hall with a simple and honest servant. Menghualu? Luo Feng sneered, I said before that I admire the musician Luo Ya. How come you, Menghualu, dare to give the musician I like to a little kid? Everyone present was in a state of panic, including young Master Mo Li Lian and Palace Master Duan Mo Yun. They were terrified. If the eternal true god turned against them, they could easily be crushed to death. Although they had backgrounds did not equal strength. For example, Luo Feng did not care about their backgrounds at the moment, they were just 2 void true gods. Lord Luo He. The green-clad waiter also followed into the hall, extremely anxious. It's our Menghualu's fault. Shut up. Luo Feng said. The green-clad waiter dared not say a word. Luo Feng glanced at Palace Master Duan Moyun and young Master Mo Lilian, and said calmly, from today on, the 2 of you are not allowed to enter Menghua Tower. And you Menghualu. Luo Feng's eyes swept over the green-clothed waiters and purple-clothed waiters. Aluoya, you guys watch over me. If you can't protect her, leave it to me. Do you understand? The green-clad waiter nodded. As for the Blood Python Society, the Mo Li clan, and the Menghua Tower, if anyone is dissatisfied, feel free to come find me. Luo Feng smiled slightly, I will warmly entertain him. After saying this, the invisible aura dissipated, and all living beings in the hall regained their freedom. But everyone was frightened and dared not say a word for a while. "Aluoya, follow me," Luo Feng said, and walked straight out. He. Morosa glanced around, laughed a few times and walked out. He was ordered not to cause trouble, but Morosa absolutely approved of his master Luo Feng causing trouble. Arroya and the green-clad waiter followed him out. They were all a little confused. Only young Master Mo Li Lian, Palace Master Duan Mo Yun, the purple-robed waiter and a group of his subordinates were left in the hall. "This is too." Mo Lilian felt ashamed and angry, but there was nothing he could do. You don't take the Blood Python Society, Menghua Tower, and the Moli clan seriously at all. The red-haired man Duan Moyun was extremely angry. He immediately reported the details to the president and vice president of the Blood Python Society through a communication order. At this moment, the president of the Blood Python Society and a vice president were attending the 100 Flowers banquet. "We have to tell the owner of the building." The purple-robed waiter immediately told the owner of Menghua Building everything. Luo Feng arrived at the familiar lunching palace, where food and wine had already been prepared. The green-clad waiter whispered, "Your Excellency, I'm afraid today's matter will be a little troublesome." Luo Feng glanced at her and said nothing. He has restrained himself. In order not to cause trouble to the musician Luoya, he did not do anything. When Luo Feng heard that the Lord of Duan Moyun threatened the Thousand-Leaf Vine Grass clan, he had the intention to kill him. Luo Feng despised the most this kind of people who used ethnic threats to force others. It would be a pleasure for him to kill him, but it would bring a lot of trouble to Arroya. So he was very restrained and only gave a few words of advice, which was already very merciful. Saint Luoha, a member of the Blood Python Club, walked outside the hall and said respectfully, "My vice president is also attending the 100 Flowers banquet. I heard that there are some minor conflicts between our Blood Python Club's hall master Duan Moyun and Shang Yun, so Vice President Lai Mo specially ordered me to invite Shang Yun. Please come to the banquet." "Let me go to the banquet?" Luo Feng held up the wine glass. "If you want to see me, come to me in person. There is no reason for me to visit him." This video will end here.